do. This is my time set aside to do this same work. So I love getting to like having this focus time and having other people to do it with. So this is really fun. Before we dive in, though, I just want to say happy halfway day. Did you realize today is exactly halfway through 2025, right? There have been, I looked this up. I didn't do the math myself. I did ask Chat GPT to do it for me. So far, we have had 262,980 minutes from January 1st up through today, June 30th, right? So, this is a great thing. And I did a live earlier today. If you saw it on Facebook, I also posted it inside the community and kind of connected this to, like a basketball game. And, what do you do at halftime? We stop and assess where we are, and then we get a plan for where we're moving forward, right? So, this is a great time to really kind of go, okay, before I just jump into not only a new month, but also into a new quarter, where am I in relation to where I wanted to be or where I plan to be by now? And I kind of came up with like a couple different categories, Donita. Thanks for, sharing where you find yourself at on the Facebook Live that went out earlier today. But you might feel like you're ahead of plan. You've blown past your goals. You're growing more than you expected. You're like, it's only January or it's only June 30th, like, wow, like I'm tracking like, this should already be the end of the year, right? The second option would be like, okay, I feel like I'm on track. I feel like I've been consistently following my plan. I've been seeing good results and, things are progressing kind of as I thought they might. Or I think where a lot of us fall is that I feel like I'm falling behind. I've lost momentum. I got distracted. Maybe I'm not seeing the kind of results that I was hoping for. So, what I want you to remember is that where you are today on June 30th, 2025, is just where you are. It is never who you are, right? Our results do not define our value. And I mean, think about in the eternity, right? Even though 262,980 minutes sounds like a lot to us right now, like in, comparison to eternity, it's going to be like a blink of an eye, right? But here is where this really, I think, should motivate our responsibility to steward our time well and to say, okay, what have I done with the time that's been entrusted to me? And not beat ourselves up, not do the shoulda, woulda, coulda game, but like really say, okay, how am I going to intentionally steward what's in front of me? And the beautiful thing is, we don't have to do it alone, right? In fact, as a CEO, by definition, a Christ-empowered operator, you shouldn't be approaching time by yourself, right? That wouldn't be Christ empowered, that'd be you empowered, right? You'd be a you, I guess is how we'd say it, right? And there's a lot of scripture that goes to this, right? But one that really stood out to me as I was just kind of digging into God's word is Psalm 37:5, which says, commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will act. Like, I love that reminder that it's this with God partnership, right? And we've talked about this before. Like, I don't know the math. It's not 50-50. It's not 80-20. It's not 90-10. I think it's 100-100. I think God shows up 100% who he is, and he asks us to show up 100% who he's called us to be and who we are in him, right? And so it's this beautiful thing together. And I couldn't remember who had said this quote, so I also asked ChatGPT to help me with this. But I remember hearing this, and it was actually by St. Augustine. And he one day said, without God, we cannot. And without us, God will not. Let me say that again. Without God, we cannot. And without us, God will not, right? Here's this beautiful, like, however this works, right? Of this divine invitation and our active participation. His part is directing our path and bringing the growth, right? And expanding those opportunities that we didn't even see coming or, we had no idea could actually bring the kind of fruit that he can produce. And our part is in the making plans and taking action and trusting him as we go through that process. Right? I've been in your head. Good, because I've been in my head too, Danielle. So, right? Like I think the Lord knows exactly what we need to hear. And, again, we don't let a calendar or a clock, define, where we are. But yet, I think there are these markers in time that help us to kind of make time more tangible, right? And to stop and think about some of these things. And so as you're looking ahead, I want you to, just really A, trust him to do his part, but B, keep asking him, Lord, what is the my part that you're calling me to? And how can I do that? Right? And how can I be intentional about how I'm using my time? And what we don't want to happen is we don't want June 30th to turn out the same way that January 1st does for most people. Do you know what happens for most people? January 1st, what happens? We put out those goals. This is what I'm going to do. This is the year, fill in the blank, right? Like, I would love to hear, if you're willing to share, what's one thing that you said January 1st, this is happening this year, whether it was a goal, a project, a desire, something that's been in the back burner that you're like, enough of that, something you've, maybe it was something fresh and new, maybe it was something that's kind of been around for a while. What was something that January 1st you said, you know what, this is the year, this is when I'm going to, if you're willing, yeah,
Um,
drop in the chat or unmute.
oh,
Go ahead, Mary.
okay. Oh, in the chat, do you say?
Either way, either
Okay.
way.
Well, I mean, I guess I had three major things for this year, and I made some progress, on all of them. But my work, I was very overwhelmed at work.
Mm.
I know I've said this before. So I feel like right now I'm much more where I wanted to be. That is probably my area that I'm the most on track. And it's also been probably one of the two things that's been I've allowed to pull me down, it's
Mm.
just, you know, energy and
Sure.
time.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, and I hadn't really thought as much about that, but yes, I'd say that's a
Yeah.
positive.
And that's good, right? And whether you feel like you've hit where you wanted to be or you feel like you're lagging somewhere, here's where we always have a choice. And I talk about this with my clients all the time. We can focus on the gain or the gap.
Mm,
We can focus on how far we are from where we wanted to be or where we thought we'd be or where we think we should be. Or we can focus on, like, okay, here are the gains I've made towards this, right? And that's a beautiful thing because that's what's going to keep us taking steps forward versus just seeing the gap and then saying, well, there I go again. Why bother? Like this always happens, Yeah. Okay, Danielle, your masterclass, although it has revamped, which is a beautiful thing, right? Like as you've been working towards this, it's now turned into even something even bigger and better than you would have imagined back on January 1st. And sometimes that happens too, right? Where things don't just, it's not always, quote, as we planned. And that's the beauty of it, is that oftentimes it's better than we planned. But here's the thing that we want to avoid is just setting those goals and starting off strong, but losing momentum or getting distracted, right? Remember the story of the hare and the tortoise, where the two start off at the same start line, right? They've got the same, they're working towards that finish line. And that hare, he's going, he's got this, right? And then he kind of gets distracted. Then he's off, under the tree taking a nap because he feels like he's got so much time. And all of a sudden he realizes, oh, it's June 30th or oh, it's whatever, right? And he jumps up and he's running but that tortoise that just kind of gradually kept moving in that direction is the one who got to the finish line first, right? It wasn't about who was the fastest, it was about who was the most focused, right? And that is really, I think, where the difference is because we can't change how much time we get, right? But we can control if it's going to be scattered or distracted or if it's going to be focused. And so, really, as we look at the second half of the year, like I want you to really pay attention to how is my focus? Right now, number one, focusing on the Lord, right, and what He has called us to. And then number two, then letting Him direct our focus to where our time needs to go. And that's why what we're doing tonight is so valuable because this is what resets our focus or renews our focus or reminds us of our focus or whatever the RE word is that you want to use, right, as to where you are, right? It's coming back to this. And I actually had someone tell me this the other day. I loved this. So in the planner, those of you guys who have the planner, I think everybody here has the planner. There is a seasonal reset in between every 3 months. Now, depending on when you picked up the planner, this may be a seasonal reset for you right now, and it may not be. So it's okay if it's not, but there's intention around why I put those in there. And the way that somebody just recently shared this with me, I thought was so great. She's like, Lissa, this is going to be the first planner I will have filled out the entire year because she always gets super excited. Who gets super excited with a fresh planner? And it's like, oh, yay, we love setting it up. We love like, all like the getting started parts or whatever. And then we get into it and it just kind of feels like, rah, 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 right? More of the same. And what she said was like, Lissa, what I love is that every 3 months, it feels like I'm starting this over again. I'm like resetting and I'm like, it's like new planner feeling again. And it gets me like reconnected and reinvigorated to where my time is going and what I'm doing. And she's a self-proclaimed ADD girl who's always feels like her time is distracted, which I know many. I think I'm going to do a post or a live on this. I think there is something called business ADD, whether it's an official diagnosis or not. I think for those of us in who have a business, and let's be honest, just have a life, I think we all have some level of ADD, right? Because there are just so many things that we just shoop, shoop, shoop all over the place, right? So we need something that's going to bring us in here, right? Like that break between quarters in a basketball game, we need to rest and reflect and reset. So I encourage you, if you are at that place using your planner right now, set aside some time. It's okay if it doesn't happen before tomorrow. It's okay. But take some time this week to do that seasonal reset. Or maybe you skipped the last seasonal reset because you just plowed right into the next month. Okay, then go back and do that, right? Like use that space to like kind of bring yourself back to what it matters, right? And this is one of the things we do is we take this bigger picture that we set out at the beginning of a year, whenever that year started, and we break it down into these 12-week focuses, right? And we think about like, what is it that I'm really wanting to focus in on? So, one of the things you're going to hear me start talking a little bit more about is a new opportunity to work with me at a deeper level if this is something that you want more support on. And it's going to be called CEO Focus. And the idea is that you are going to get more done in 12 weeks than most people do in 12 months. Because we are going to go, okay, what is that 12 month goal? Like, what are the things you want to see happen? We're going to map it out and break it down into the 4 12-week chunks. And then I'm going to help you plan out a very specific, intentional 12-week plan that's going to have a specific outcome, monthly milestones, weekly targets, doable steps. Okay, Danielle, good. I love that you worked on it this weekend. If you're already a client of mine, then this is something you get ongoing support. But some of you, like this would be a great place to start because it's going to help you really start moving the needle in a shorter amount of time. Because what it's about is having the long-term vision with a short-term focus, right? So I just today opened up 5 spots at a crazy low price so that people can come in. And it's actually, you get 13 weeks of me. And Danielle knows this because that 13th week is to rest, reset, reflect before you start the next one, right? Where you're going to get support and accountability and coaching around how to move the needle on that goal, or how to get that project off your back burner, or how to build consistency in things that maybe have felt a little scattered and things like that. So, if that is something that would be of interest to you, reach out to me with the word focus, and I will send you the details of what that looks like and how you can grab one of those first couple of spots before that price goes away. Because when you know where you're going in the next year, and then you know where you're going in the next 12 weeks, now it comes down to what we're doing tonight, right? Is previewing and planning the next month. Hey, Nikki, glad you're joining us tonight. I know you're out in other places, so glad that you're with us. And this, then, what we're doing tonight of previewing the month is what is going to help us with our weekly planning and then our daily planning, right? And this is why we don't just start checking boxes or start filling our digital calendar and just feel like we're in task mode all day long, right? That we are actually going to be kind of breaking this down and having this bigger picture. So, without further ado, let's dive into there. So if you have your planner, grab it and open up to wherever the next month is for you. Like I said, if there's a seasonal reset right before that, I want you to decide. Maybe tonight you're going to spend a little bit of time going through that. Maybe block off some time tomorrow or some time later this week. But take some time to pause and do that seasonal reset because that is really, really important. But we are going to start tonight because I know we're all in different places with the planner. This is why I intentionally built the planner undated so you could pick it up any day of the week, any day of the year, and say, okay, maybe it got dusty over in the corner and now you can pick it back up, right, and start using it again. Okay. So we're going to start with is giving you a little time to do a brain dump. Because if you're like me, there are a lot of things that were going on in your head and your heart in the month of June. There are a bunch of other things that are coming up in the month of July. And if we don't start getting this stuff out of up here, down on paper, it's just going to stay this muddled mess, right? So I'm going to give us the next 5 minutes to work on the brain dump page. This may be more time than you need. It may be less time than you need. It may be just enough, but at least it's going to get this process started. What are all the things that come to mind for this month? And then if you have time, start sorting your list with our 4 Ds: delete, delegate, delay, and delight. I know all of you who are here live have been here, so you know what those Ds are. So I'm going to set the timer here for the next 5 minutes. What does July hold? What do you want it to hold? What are some things that maybe, got backburnered in the month of June that you want to kind of bring up to the forefront? Maybe something that got put on, a wish list back in January that hasn't really come to the forefront. Maybe it's time to bring that up to the forefront. Right now, just get it out on paper. Just because it brain dumps doesn't mean it happens. And then we'll go from there. Okay. Sorry, I'm talking and muted. I was just saying, as Danielle said, there's something about writing it down that makes it more tangible, right? So sometimes a lot can feel like a lot up in our head, or it doesn't feel like so much. So let's get it down on paper. Give you another minute or so. I'd love to hear if anyone wants to share. something that you are either looking forward to this month or something that you are looking forward to letting go this month. Maybe something that, yeah, you're like, you know what, this month I'm setting this aside. Can unmute or open or put in the chat. Go ahead, Donita.
I, the Lord told me at the end of last year to let go of the magazine, and I let some people talk me into not. And so it's been a struggle all this year,
Mm,
and I am finally listening and obeying. And so I'm going to be letting go, but it's going to be a process because I need to go ahead and finish this edition and then I need to put the book together. And so it's going to take me the whole month plus to get it all wrapped up and everything. But I'm kind of excited and nervous about it. But I, at the beginning of the year, I made a commitment to write a book a month
mm,
and publish a book a month. But having this magazine to have to think about quarterly has really made it hard. So I don't feel like I'm like behind on my books necessarily because I've done a lot of writing and stuff this year. But it's definitely thrown a kink in it because
mm.
I didn't need that extra at the same time. So
Yeah, what a great example of, yes, how when we let go of something, how it's going to free up time, energy, bandwidth, just emotions and things like that that maybe have been tied to something that just has been weighing us down or taking us in, maybe it's not necessarily taking us in the wrong direction, but just maybe it's dividing our focus or it's scattering our time or whatever that is. And God is patient with us, thankfully, right? I mean, how often has He told us something and we're like,
he,
okay, yeah.
he's persistent too. I mean, he kind of just let me alone with it. And then this last month, I had a whole bunch of people unsubscribe all of the sudden. And it's like, oh, okay, I got
Yeah,
the point now,
yeah, right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good for you. We're celebrating with you that you are, yeah, listening and have a plan to wrap that up. And yeah, excited for what that's going to do for you as you move into not only this month and going through that process, but also into the months that follow. So love it. Anybody else? Any something you're looking forward to, anticipating having time for this month or not making time for this month?
Well, the thing that I look forward to the most, even when I'm just feel like I don't have the time to do it, is well, there are two things. One is my two closest friends. We get together and we call each other sisters. I think I mentioned that
Mhm.
before. And so we're having a get together this next Sunday. And that just, it's sort of like working out. I'm never sorry that I did it, even if I
Yes.
feel like, oh, I should be, or could be doing something else in that time. And then the other thing is I don't do a lot of volunteer work at this this particular phase of my life. I did a lot when my daughter was younger, but um so I once a month I'm on a team that does a worship service at a assisted living
Hmm.
in a nursing home. And so we did that yesterday. And again, I totally felt like I didn't have the time to go yesterday. And then I was so blessed that I did. So
Hmm.
always a good thing.
Yeah, I love those things. It takes intention to make time for them, but then we're always blessed
Mhm.
just by how it revives, our spirit and how we see the Lord work. So I love that. Thanks for sharing those, Mary. That's exciting. Good. Good. All right, well, let's go into our P's in the monthly planning. So the first one is our pause. And like Donita just reminded us, sometimes the Lord is speaking and we're hearing him clearly. Sometimes we're busy, la, 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 that we can't even hear. So I want you just to take that sail of breath before we really start diving into what the month of July is going to look like. And yeah, just kind of notice. What's God stirring in your heart? Maybe there's something he's been saying, maybe there's something he's saying to you now, maybe there's something you're wanting him to speak into. So maybe it's you asking a question more than getting an answer. But take a minute to do that pause and write down anything that comes to mind in that category. I hope that Selah pause is something you're doing not just once a month, but hopefully at least once a week and ideally once a day, right? We're just pausing and just being quiet. It's in those quiet moments that we feel like we don't have time for, right? Like Mary talked about just a minute ago, that, God often speaks in exactly what it is that we need to hear. And it has everything to do with our time, where we're investing it, how we're feeling about the return we see on it or lack thereof, what we're believing about it, all the different things in there. So those Selah pauses, we need them, right? They're so good. All right, our second P is position, right? What is your focus word for this month? Whether it's been continuous from the month of January, and maybe this is again one of those things you put a word out there in January, maybe you stuck with it for a month or two or three, and then it kind of like, oh yeah, what was this? So maybe it's reviving that word, maybe it's a fresh word that you want to really be your focus for this month. But what is that word that you want to be in front of you in the month of July? And how aligned do you feel like you are to that right now? Sometimes the easiest way to do is just like kind of rate yourself on a 1 to 10 scale. And again, we're probably never going to be at a 10 in something, especially if it's something we're working towards. But wherever you are, what would help you just move towards that a little bit more? Okay, so pay attention to that, right? Write that down. And then I would love to see in the chat what your word is going into the month of July. Build. Oh, I like that. I know you've been building your catio or whatever you call it. I have seen that, Nikki. It's a tangible thing that's been building out there, but there's so many other, yeah, things that build can mean as well. Open-handed. Ooh, yeah. How often are we like, God has to like pry our fingers back off? I mean, that's really what's kind of coming to me right now is like, are you willing to trust me? Was kind of the say la pause thing. And then my word, I'm looking at what I had done from the workshop we did a couple months ago, was expectant. Are you expectant of those, of what it is that I'm putting, he's going to do in front of me. And it's oftentimes me letting go of control of that. Right? I love it, Donita, especially if that goal is to get a book out a month, which is a amazing goal. Yeah. Yeah. Keep those words out in front of you and keep coming back to that. Lord, is this going to help me be blank when opportunity comes across your path? Right? Here's how we stay focused and having a word breakthrough. I love that, Mary. So think about like, what does that mean? Like I would get, for each one of us, right? Like now we can have a word, but like, what does that mean? Right? And kind of flesh out a little bit of what we think that looks like and what that means in the here and now and what we're working through. And then as those opportunities come, right, which sometimes they are divine invitations and sometimes they are distracting interruptions, right? Our focus word is a great way to like draw us back and say, is this going to help me flesh this out and be more whatever that word is? If not, then that might be a clear indication that that is not something that we should be giving a yes to right now. We were having this conversation last night about slowing down our yes. My husband said, after this project is done, don't let me say yes to things without like actually thinking about all the all the ramifications of them. So all right, our next P is patterns. I don't know about you, but sometimes like it's easy to get into patterns and not really notice that we either have started doing something or we've stopped doing something or there's been something that, we have been doing that's really been fruitful and we want to continue. So just take a minute to pause and say, okay, what have my habits been lately? Whether it's in your time with the Lord, maybe in your health habits, your sleep habits. I told my husband, he left for a big trip today. He's gone for the next week overseas. I said, I am getting my sleep patterns back on schedule. So just be prepared when you get back that yes, we've been on vacation mode and, people coming and going and stuff like that. So that's definitely one for me. Maybe it's something in your business or something in service, that you're wanting to do. So notice if there's something you want to start, continue, or stop, or maybe even one of each of those. Anything anyone wants to share for accountability? Here's where, right, rubber meets the road. It's one thing to write it down, and that's a first step. It's another thing to actually say it out loud, and then to invite other people to, help us with that. Get swimming in each week. I love that. That does sound fun, especially when it's been really hot lately. Need some water, right? And get away from like, anything that's going to be digital or electronic, right? That's the good thing about swimming is there are no digital devices that follow you there, right? Stop the social media scroll. Yeah. Okay. All right. So notice, right? Pay attention to when am I picking this up? When am I going to this, right? Like what's triggering this? Is there a time of day? Is there like when I'm feeling a certain way, then this is what I go to, kind of thinking about, yeah, what I call them speed bumps. What speed bumps can you put in place that are going to slow down the picking of it up? What that looks like. Lowering your cholesterol. Good, Mary, which is probably going to lead to some habits that need to tie into that of exercise and nutrition and things like that as well. Yeah. Yeah. We're all working on things. None of us have ever got this all figured out, right? Just when one area, feels like we're in a good spot and then it's time to focus on the next area. Not a bad thing. All right, our next P is plan, right? And here is where, like, we started off and I was telling you about CEO focus, like being able to say, like, I'm not just saying this is what I'm doing this year, but going, okay, I'm breaking this down into a smaller focus. This is what most people are missing because they just have that long-term vision. They don't have the short-term focus. So whether you have a like fleshed out 12-week plan that you are going to, whether you're about to create one, maybe you're in the middle of one, I want you to like take a few minutes to check in with that, or at least to write down. Okay, so if this is the beginning of a new 12 weeks for you, or you would decide that it is, right? July, August, September. So by the end of September, what's that outcome? And why is that important? And if you look at that page and wherever you find a seasonal reset, it says, what's my focus? What's my outcome? Try and make that tangible. What's my why? And what's my reward? And that's a great place to start is really figuring out what would that look like? Because otherwise, just one month turns into the next, turns into the next, right? And those maybe bigger things or those things that keep getting tabled don't ever really get our time and attention. And like I said, if you want more support around mapping this out and fleshing it out, walking it out, that's what CEO Focus is all about. Okay. And that's where, like there's a spot in the planner to write this out, but it's the how do I have the accountability and consistency to actually walk this out? But at least in our time tonight, identify where you are and what it is that you're wanting to focus on in the 12 weeks that you're in, whether it's the beginning, the middle, or the end of one for you. And if you're in a place where you're just building a new one out, like some of us are, if you started the planner at the beginning of the year, then this will take more time than what we're going to give it tonight. But I would at least love to hear, like, what is your focus right now in wherever you're at of a 12-week cycle? What is it that you're really wanting to move towards? Again, that gives accountability and gives an opportunity for support around those things. So drop that in the chat or unmute if you want to share that way. What is it that you're working towards?
I'm working toward clear, compelling, and repeatable messaging because that will make me referable when other people can repeat what I do and will remember what I do because it's clear and compelling, then they can refer me easily. And also my customer journey mapping, because I feel like there's a lot of touch points where I can touch customers, but there's not really a path for them to follow. And so I want to
Yeah.
have that laid out by
And
the
you know
end of
what
the
just hit
quarter.
me, Danielle, that I didn't really notice before? They actually tie together. I don't know if you notice this, like just because if you put them in the opposite order, right, of like somebody from that, like we're just first meeting to they're, coming on this journey and then working with you, that next thing after working with you is the referral process, is the testimonials, so like think about that part of being part of the customer client journey, right? And how often have we worked with somebody and then we've come back and worked with them again a couple months or years or whatever down the road because there was a renewed interest or need or things like that, right? So yeah, especially with the wanting to have the focus on the referrals, think of that as part of that client journey where it's not just, okay, now we finished, this official program and, and the journey is done. So yeah, I love that. Anybody else want to share what you're working towards in this 12-week cycle? What are you building, Nikki? Is that maybe part of yours, I wonder? If I can put you on the spot.
Well, we've had a huge monkey wrench fall into our cog here, so right now everything's kind of up in the air.
Okay.
Our truck broke down and it was a huge expense to get it towed, and now we have to tow it to someplace else, and it's thrown everything off kilter.
So maybe you're starting with
So,
building your confidence and belief and your faith right now
and my bank account.
in your bank account. Exactly. Girl,
Yeah.
we just had literally something like that happen about 2 days ago, and yeah, unexpected. And that was on top of a couple other unexpected things. So you are not alone in that, right? And
Yeah.
yes, and God is not, outside of that as well. So,
Yeah. I
ah,
think it might be the transmission. So,
okay. Yeah, those are hard
so,
things. Yep.
yeah. So,
I'm going to encourage you, right? Here's where we make plans and we don't always know exactly what's going to happen. And what feels like a monkey wrench to us, right, could be exactly what God is using to show us how to trust Him, to provide in a way that we didn't expect, to teach us something about Him or who we are, or, where our value is, where our joy really is, like all of these things, right? Yes, that He will provide, and that, He is present in those things. So this is where, again, James 4, right? We make plans, but we say if the Lord wills, right? And we hold these loosely, knowing that we don't know it all. And yet He does, right? And He'll be faithful in all of that and asks us to keep doing our part. So thanks for sharing that, Nikki. All right, let's get into some calendar stuff. Okay, the next P is preview, where this is a great time to turn the page and say, okay, what actually is coming up in the next month that needs to get on this monthly calendar? If you haven't already, go ahead and write the dates in. So the first is on a Tuesday. So you can start there and write your 1 through 31. July is a 31 month. So go ahead and start by doing that. And then what are maybe you have a trip coming up. Maybe you have a birthday. Maybe you have an event. Maybe you have a workshop or like Mary was talking about you doing, you serve once a month or whatever that is. What is coming up this month that you are wanting to plan or prepare for? And so you can the checklist over on the left-hand side, the personal events and commitments and the work events and commitments. Okay, those are the things that we're going to be focusing on and putting on there. Sometimes there is like a specific date where like this is when it happens, like, a birthday or some kind of event or trip or something like that. And sometimes there isn't specifically a date, but here's where you can assign it a date, right? And give it something that is going to give it a place to live. So I'll give you a few minutes to kind of preview what the month looks like. Make sure things are, again, not just in our head, but actually in front of us so that we don't have all the surprises when all of a sudden that day pops up and you're like, oh no. Ooh, I don't know if you noticed this, Nikki, but at least the month I'm on, so you may not be in the same month, but the month I'm on, the quote up in the top corner says, we forget that it's in the interruptions, the waiting seasons, the disappointments, that we grow best, right? And we read about that in the book that we were reading as CEOs. Oftentimes our growth happens in the hard stuff, not when things are comfortable. And while we're here, our next monthly call is on the 28th, the last Monday of the month. So go ahead and put that on your monthly calendar. It's kind of nice to look ahead at this week and say, oh, for a lot of us, it might be a short week or a long weekend, however you want to look at it. It's kind of fun to see. There's something about like a monthly spread that you don't get in a digital calendar, right? When you're just scrolling from one day to the next, it's really hard to see how things flow. And so I love having kind of like all on one page, a picture of what the month looks like and what some things are that it holds. Raise your hand if you want more time to be putting those things on here on this section. Do you need more time for the personal and work events or commitments? No? Okay. Okay. Now, as you're looking at that, right? For example, I about like all of a sudden was like, oh, I need to get something out to my dad for his birthday. And then I realized, oh, I already did it. It's like, look at me, I'm already ahead. But kind of pay attention to not just waiting till the day of, but are there things that I need to now put on my calendar a day or two ahead or a week ahead, such that, it's triggering me to be thinking about that thing or preparing for that thing. The workshop shows up, we want to make sure we're prepared or whatever that thing is. So be thinking about what is that going to take to be able to be fully present for whatever that is that's in front of you. All right, pace. Here's where we get to do the most important thing, and that is put in the pauses. Where are you going to intentionally pause or pull back or create a little bit of space or margin in this next month? You might notice a certain section in here is a little bit fuller than others. So how can you maybe build some buffer either in the midst of that or kind of on either end of that? Maybe it's, like maybe you have some kind of a trip and so it's building a little buffer before or after that. I found that that's super helpful rather than trying to, do up until the minute you leave uh and then, as soon as you get back. Hopefully it's including some Sabbath rest, some refill time. Might be a good time to put those swimming hole times in, Donita. And you kind of do a little bit of this on the monthly planning page as well as the monthly spread page. What will that margin look like? What types of things are going to be refilling or refreshing for you, life-giving for you, help you take that break, help you lose the phone or the computer or whatever it is that tends to fill your hand or your mind? And what would you be doing instead? What's going to really help you slow down? They say these are the lazy, hazy days of summer, right? So how are we going to be a little lazy with intention in a good way? So think about what that might look like, and then I'd love for us to share because I think this is where we oftentimes need accountability and some ideas.
I'm not really sure what this is going to look like. Were you asking? I'm sorry, I looked away. Were
Go
you
ahead. Nope,
asking
you're
me?
good.
But, um, I'm not really sure what this is going to look like. I need to think about it a little bit more, but I find that, it, it was good for me at one point several years ago when on Wednesdays I was sort of my break time, meaning I would do something. I remember I had a certificate for some massages, and doing that on Wednesday instead of waiting until the weekend was just so, refreshing and kind of
Yeah,
got
kind
me
of
going for the rest of
resetting.
the week. Reset.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great idea, right? Like where do you need an intentional pause?
Mhm.
And so then again, it's kind of the whole idea of like I'm trying to make it through the week, just like I'm trying to make it through the year, right? But like breaking it up into like these smaller focus cycles. What's my focus for Monday, Tuesday? Knowing that Wednesday I then either whether it's, just a little break or whether it's a bigger break on Wednesday, and then what does Thursday, Friday look like? And then to the weekend. I think that's a great idea, Mary. I love that. Anybody else? How will you intentionally pause? What does that look like to build in some margin or white space and not just fill everything with something that needs to be done or we think we need to be doing?
I have decided to take off Mondays and Fridays
Mm.
during the summer. And so I'm only basically working Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So I can do some sewing and some reading and just some things that I've been wanting to do.
Yeah, I love that, right? And just takes that intention. And here's what happens. This is what I love, Donita. You make that decision, and then guess what? Now you get strategic with how you're going to spend that time, both on those days that you're doing other things and on the days that you're working, right? Because work always fills the time we give it. So if we give it Monday through Friday or Sunday to Saturday, it is going to fill all of that time, right? But when we, really think about, what are the boundaries around which I'm putting this, then it helps us be more focused and be strategic around what we're spending our time on, what we're not. So I love that. It's a great idea. Anyone else? Anything around pace, margin, rest, joy, fun?
Well, in line with what you just said, Lissa, Redeem Her Time has given me my Sundays back
Mm,
because I was working every single day because I thought I had to, and learning that I don't have to and I can take those Sundays. So those are intentional for me. In fact, yesterday I had something I needed to do that required the computer. And I told my husband, I'm like, I'm not even plugging the computer and I'm not turning it on. It wasn't work related. It was non-work related. But I said, I'm not even touching my computer on Sunday. I'm not. And it felt so good, like to go the whole day and not be staring at a screen.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then kind of in line with what Mary said, we have when my husband went back to work, we hired a cleaning lady to come in a couple times a month because we just couldn't do it all with both of us working again. And so I always like to take a bubble bath she comes on Wednesday. And then I'm always like, the tub's clean. I don't have to clean it before I get in. So I always like to take a bubble bath on Wednesday evenings.
Yeah, right. It's just those little things sometimes that are just like, it's a little carrot, the little treat or something like that. I love that, Danielle. So good. Well, enjoy those bubble baths. That's fantastic. Good. Yeah, we need to build these things in, especially when you don't think you have time. Just like Mary reminded us in the beginning, these are the things that refresh us, refill us, and actually help multiply our time, right? So I love it. So good. So good. All right. Our last part is praying over this next month, right? Here's where, again, we take our plans as much as we know right now, right? We don't know for sure what the next 31 days holds, only he does. But we lay them in his hands, right? And we trust him with that. And so I want to pray over us. If you have a specific prayer request for this next month, please put it in the chat. We'd love to be praying for you about that as you are trusting the Lord with whatever that is, whether that's a life thing or a business thing or a relationship thing or a health thing. Yeah, a repair bill. We just got a repair bill for our incident today. So yeah, things that are trying to quit. Okay, some different things going on. Yeah, yeah. All right, let me pray for us. Lord, thank you for your presence with us. Thank you for your providence over our lives and our time. Thank you for your provision and for how you always give us what we need. And thank you that you are patient with us. And I didn't mean for those all to be peas, so that must have been you for those to come out of my mouth. But Lord, we need to have to be reminded that you are patient with us as we continue to learn to open our hands and let go of control and trust you, especially when the monkey wrenches come, when the unexpected happens, when the bill comes, when the thing breaks, when the launch flops, when whatever that is. Lord, we trust that you know better than we do. And we want to be faithful to stewarding the time you've given us this month and doing what you have called us to and trusting you with the results. And so, God, we just come before you and just ask that first that you would just help us to see you in all of this, not to see our task lists or our busy calendars, or maybe even not to see the empty spaces that we feel like should be filled because we're trying to find our value or our worth in our doing. That we would see you, we would see your bigger purpose and what it is that you're doing in and through all of these things. Lord, I do just pray for Nikki as she is facing this unexpected circumstance and how it affects her and what you've called her to in her nonprofit and how this will affect things financially. I pray that you'll give her faith. I pray that you'll give her wisdom. I pray that you'll help her to see things that ways that you were going to provide that maybe she wouldn't have expected. I just pray that you will just, give her open eyes and ears to hear and see you in a new way through all of this. For Donita, she's trusting that this machine isn't going to break down. Lord, I pray that you will help her with that. And just as she works towards letting go of what you've asked her to, I pray that you'll just give her the strength and the grace to walk out that process. Lord, as we have other things that are going on, a workshop for Danielle and just her feelings around that. Lord, I pray that, that you will just give her that peace that goes beyond understanding and remind her that you are with her even in that and that you are growing her. And it was this idea that you gave her that is now being fleshed out. And for that, we rejoice. So Lord, we thank you for what's in front of us. I thank you for the opportunities that Mary has had to just minister to others and be ministered to in the process, and for that reminder of how our time is multiplied when we are pouring it out into other people. And so God, we just ask your blessing over this next month, over the plans that we have made and the desires that you've put on our hearts. And God, help us to be faithful in walking with you through all of this. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Well, thanks for being together tonight. Enjoy the month of July. I look forward to seeing you guys around the community and all of that as well. And definitely reach out if there are ways we can be continuing to pray for and support you as we go. All right.
Melissa,
Yeah.
what was the verse that you read at the beginning of the session?
At the beginning, Psalm 37:5.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will act. Yeah. And I have something exciting happening this month. I actually know the date. It's not written down because my daughter will then know what's going on, but it is something related to her. So yeah, super excited that will be coming up in the next couple months and that we get to be a part of it. So yeah, that's kind of a fun thing coming up. So, all right. Well, I will look forward to seeing you guys around. Take care. Thanks for being here tonight. Bye-bye.